Thank you, Dr. Sal, and thank you all very much for coming. So today I want to talk about an idea that I think can truly change the world for the better. But before I tell you about this idea, I want to give you some context, so you can decide for yourself if you do think it can change the world, and hopefully you agree with me that it's for the better. So allow me, if you will, to symbolize all human ideas with this screen. There are a lot of them, some good, some bad, some utterly transformative. And it's this last category that I'm really interested in. Ideas that have changed the way we live, the society we live in, and Earth itself. Now, besides these, there are so many ideas that are just background clutter, that are the thought equivalent of cosmic background radiation. But there are these gems. There are these very small and rare gems. Now, I'm talking about things like the wheel, and talking about things like writing. In a more modern context, I'm talking about things like the Wright brothers inventing human flight, or Nikola Tesla inventing alternating current, or Marconi inventing wireless communications. These are ideas that are outside the box. These are ideas that had you told someone about them before their introduction, they probably thought you were crazy. Think, for example, telling somebody who thought before wireless communication was invented that you could send information instantly, invisibly, through the air, as fast as the speed of light. They'd probably think you were crazy, and indeed they thought he was. Now, why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because I think that there are parallels between this and the modern world. Not to compare myself to them or their ideas to the idea I'm going to share with you today. There are problems in our modern world that I think we must think outside the box to solve. Now, as I said, there are many, many problems in our world today that need solving. Which one am I going to talk about today? I'm going to talk about climate change. Now, as you probably know, our Earth is dying, and because of our direct actions. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not okay being part of the last generation that had an opportunity to stop this before it was too late and failed to act. So, climate change. In order to solve this problem, we need to understand where it comes from. And although this is a simplification, it comes from greenhouse gas emissions. And where do these come from? Another simplification, but energy production. After all, we use a tremendous amount of fossil fuels in our cars, coal plants, and natural gas plants. And this is terrible. It's destroying the planet. So what are some of the solutions people have been proposing? And as you can see, most of them are pretty inside the box. They want to make solar panels cheaper. They say cheaper, but the problem is it will never be cheaper than fossil fuel-based sources, so it really won't help. Some people want to have expensive ways to store energy so that other kinds of renewables are better. Some people want to put more of these bird-killing windmills out there that are also incredibly expensive. Some people, it's incredibly inefficient, putting tidal things in the ocean to capture the ocean's energy, not very good, and expanding geothermal energy, again, not a very good idea, doesn't have much expansion, incredibly expensive. This one, I actually laughed. They want to make clean gas plants, although that's, of course, an oxymoron. So what's the problem with these? Why is this idea even necessary? The problem is none of these are going to work. Not a single one. Not a single one can possibly undercut fossil fuels in terms of price. And in our modern world, we need to not only make something that is completely carbon-free, but significantly cheaper than fossil fuels as well. This requires outside-the-box thinking. So far, nothing has been proposed that can solve this in a realistic manner. So, while I was at Stanford University last summer, I was thinking about this, and I realized that we needed to start over from square zero. So I asked the question, what's the biggest source of energy in our solar system? And the answer was the sun. Now, what is the best way to get energy from the sun and put it into our grid? Well, photovoltaic solar panels. But you'll notice we're right back where we started. We haven't really solved anything. But let's understand this a little bit deeper. Why won't they work? Well, they're incredibly expensive compared to fossil fuels. And newsflash, people, it's nighttime half the day. And also there's weather. So that means to make up for those last two, you have to invest in twice the amount of solar panels during the day and also ways to store that energy and release it at night. And what that means is that you would need an array of solar panels that is about the size of Nevada in order to power the entire world. That is gigantic. And because they're so expensive, it would cost $258 trillion to do that. Now, for reference, that's about 3 times the size of the world economy. So you can see the problem. So we need to think of something different. Perhaps, I asked, what if we could find a place where the sun shined 24/7, where it was impervious to weather at nighttime? Where could this be? I mean, there's a lot of space in the world. But wait a second. Space. What if we put these in space? Last time I checked, there was no weather in space. And there's also no nighttime in space. Then that begs the question, how do you get the energy from space down to Earth? Turns out that's actually very established science. Using microwave beams, you can beam this down to the surface of the Earth, actually more efficiently than just letting light filter through on its own. It seems great. Okay, sign me up. But there's a problem. The cost. To send me to space would cost over $2 million. Now, I'm not quite the size of Nevada, so you start to see the issue. We're talking about hundreds of trillions of dollars, well beyond feasible. So I asked, this is too inside the box, I said. We need to think about something different. We need to think about this problem in a different way. What if all of the solar panels were free? What if we didn't pay for them? And what if they were already in space? Seems like kind of crazy. But could it work? Well, that means we'd have to build them in space. And where would we build them? Well, you may have noticed that we have a celestial neighbor that we call the moon. And the moon is very cool because it is made out of all these elements that are perfect if you were trying to create solar panels and machines. So okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to have a factory, send it up to the moon, and it's going to produce all the solar panels. But wait, there's a problem. To make a factory that has the potential to make enough solar panels to cover Nevada would be incredibly large, and thus so expensive to send that it would be completely not feasible. So again, we're thinking too inside the box. So I asked, look for clues in nature. And I asked, what does biology do? Now the answer is biology makes these systems that out of the resources in their environment can reproduce a single version of themselves. So what if you did this with machines? What if you create what's called a self-replicating system? Much like biology, you start with one, you send one up to the moon, right? Very inexpensive. And that one reproduces a version of itself. And that one in turn reproduces a version of itself in the form of exponential growth. Then each of those can make solar panels. Each one of those. So you send one, you get potentially unlimited, of course, limited by only by the size of the moon. So that seems like it could work. That seems like a solution. So let's look at the cost. So to send something of the size we're talking about would cost about 1.2 billion with a B, not a T. So let's round that up to 2. Let's say we go a little over. And I think R&D costs would cost about 4 to 5 billion. But let's say we go 3 billion over budget. Or let's say we go to 8. Now, math geniuses in the room would tell us that 8 plus 2 is $10 billion. Seems like a lot until you consider a single nuclear power plant is about $16 billion. And when you compare it to the in-the-box thinking, so we said 10 billion divided by $258 trillion, which is the cost of covering Nevada in solar panels, and you get 0.01%. Missing a couple zeros. 0.01%. Now, 0.01% could utterly transform the way we get energy today. 0.01% is so groundbreaking that it could cause a break in the fossil fuel cycle of horribleness. So, what is the reward? What is the reward if we do this? If we take a leap of faith thinking and take this idea that's a little bit outside the box? Well, your reward is power. Infinite amount of power. Power the entire Earth forever with no runtime cost at 0 carbon emissions. And even better, and perhaps most importantly, you are undercutting fossil fuel prices so dramatically that you can cause instant change. So, in conclusion, is what I told you today a solution? Maybe. I don't know. But is it a shot? Definitely. And what I want to say in conclusion is that a shot outside the box is generally a lot more than other people are doing. We need to take more shots. We need to think outside the box more. So next time that you come upon a problem that seems impossible to solve, I ask you to think outside the box. For, after all, history is made by those who do. Thank you.